Despite a housing crisis, healthcare wait times, and 45% of Canadians thinking that we're letting in too many people, we saw the highest number of new permanent residents coming to Canada last year. And despite acknowledging that this was too much, it's expected that this and in the coming years, the number isn't going to be much lower than that.
So why are hundreds of thousands still desperately trying to get here? The answer isn't what you think.
Let's start with something that nobody really talks about. Canada is rarely anybody's first choice for immigration. Most African and Middle East immigrants would prefer the US, while European immigrants prefer moving within Europe, with Germany and the UK as top choices. Australia is the next top choice after the US for climate-sensitive folks who don't mind the remoteness of Oceania.
So why don't they go there? What's happening with all these better options that's driving people to their plan B, Canada?
While Canadians debate immigration levels, here's what the other number one options are doing. The United States issues 85,000 H-1B visas annually for 300 million people. Wait time for Indian nationals to get permanent residence can get to hundreds of years. The new administration promises even more restrictions and mass deportations.
Deported!
The UK visa processing times is about 8 to 12 months, and government fees are over £3,000. And family reunification rules are so strict that skilled workers often can't bring their spouses.
Australia's skilled worker queue is backed up by 3 to 4 years. The point system requirements keep increasing.
According to OECD data, Canada processes 73% of skilled worker applications within 12 months. The US processes only 12%. Australia 31%, and the UK 45%.
Canada isn't just better, it's the only major destination that generally functions as an accessible immigration system. Now, the issue is that it's become too accessible, and we'll touch on that too.
Canadian crime statistics show 2.2 homicides per 100,000 people. The country also ranks 11th in the Global Peace Index ranking.
Let's compare that to major origin countries for Canadian immigrants. Brazil, 22 per 100,000. South Africa, 42. India, home invasion robbery rate is 40 times higher than Canada. Pakistan, kidnapping rates there are 15 times higher than in Canada.
Now, this is where you're probably thinking, well, that's why Canada's crime rates are going up, because we let those people in, and Canadians have the right to be concerned. But for the sake of this video, let's zoom out.
It's not just about crime. It's about systemic safety. According to Transparency International Corruption Index, Canada ranks 14th least corrupt globally. Police accountability exists. You can't just bribe a cop. Legal systems function and property rights are protected.
The World Justice Project Rule of Law Index puts Canada 9th globally for civil justice and 12th for criminal justice. Our justice system can be relied upon, while many world systems can be easily bought. When immigrants talk about safety, they mean living in a society where institutions actually work. We just need to revisit our catch and release program.
Canadian healthcare frustrates everyone. Long wait times, doctor shortages, inefficiencies, and so on. But let's look at the numbers. Canada's healthcare represents 11% of our GDP, and our life expectancy is 82 years. We have no medical bankruptcies. In the United States, healthcare represents nearly 18% of GDP, and the life expectancy is 79 years. The medical bankruptcy rate is 66% of all personal bankruptcies.
Can you do me a favor? Drop me off at a corner somewhere. I don't have the greatest insurance.
OECD health data shows that Canadians live at least 4 years longer than Americans, while spending at least $3,000 less per capita on healthcare. Even accounting for wait times and system inefficiencies, Canadian healthcare outcomes consistently rank in the global top 15. I know it's hard to believe in when you've been waiting for your MRI for 6 months, but the reality is that the perfect healthcare system doesn't exist, and if it does, money is the driver.
For immigrants from countries where quality healthcare costs 40 to 60% of their household income, and doctors are some of the lowest paid professions, Canadian healthcare represents something bigger than just medical care. It represents economic security.
Here's where Canadian concerns about immigration meet actual immigrant realities. Canada did mess up temporary resident programs. We've let in 2.2 million temporary residents, and that's 6.2% of population. versus the historical norm of just 1%. This enticed creation of visa mill college programs and exploitative work arrangements suppressing wages.
Canada's 2025 plan cuts back on temporary residence, but keeps skilled permanent immigration steady. That might not make sense, but the data shows that these two groups play very different roles in the economy.
Temporary residents, students and short-term workers often add instant pressure on housing and healthcare, while only solving short-term labor market needs.
Skilled permanent immigrants, on the other hand, are seen as nation builders.
Statistics Canada long-term studies show that skilled permanent immigrants increase average wages by 3 to 7% for Canadian-born workers. They start businesses more often than Canadians. The problem is creating a two-tier labor market with low-skill, exploitable temporary workers.
The downside is that based on the last few years, it's these skilled immigrants that are now questioning whether Canada is worth their time. And some have realized that Canada is not right. In fact, 26% of skilled immigrants return to their home country within the 10-year period after landing.
In this country, we love to talk about politics, and we've gotten increasingly polarized over the last 5 years, constantly questioning our democracy. Nevertheless, the Democracy House 2024 Freedom Index scores Canada 84 out of 100 for political freedom. That's not perfect, but let's consider the rest of the world.
Current global democracy trends show that more than 50 countries experienced democratic decline in 2024. Press freedom declined in 80% of countries globally. Rule of law deteriorated in 60% of countries globally. The democracy decline isn't local, it's a global problem.
Meanwhile, in Canada, our biggest political scandals involve Prime Minister vacation expenses and whether someone wore blackface 20 years ago. The fact that these make headlines shows how functional our democracy actually is. In other countries, he would be sent to jail for that.
True story. For immigrants from countries where criticizing the government means prison or worse, Canada offers something invaluable, that is, political normalcy.
One of the reasons why it was so easy to turn the tap on the international student flows is the state of Canada's education system.
OECD education rankings consistently place Canada in the top 10 globally. One of the most basic advantages is simply financial. Canadian university tuition is about $7,000 for domestic students, while the US private university average floats around $40,000 or more.
UK university tuition is hovering around £20,000 per year.
All that while the country has a reputation for one of the best education systems in the world.
Canadian students graduate with 65% less student debt than American counterparts and 40% less than UK graduates, according to OECD.
What I appreciated about the Canadian education system, having compared it with the Russian higher education, is that Canadian education emphasizes practical skills and critical thinking over bland memorization and academic rules. It's not perfect, and it has its downsides, especially when you get a prof who's there for their thesis and not for helping you learn. But the overall education system is built to prioritize developing problem-solving skills, and that alone produces a higher rate of graduates who are equipped to succeed in life.
In our view, Canada works for people who want predictability over excitement, collaboration over pure competition, and long-term stability over maximum short-term gain.
Canadians don't win at the expense of others' losses. They optimize for collective wins.
And that's where Canada becomes a real personality test for many immigrants.
The 77% of immigrants who stay aren't settling for second best. They've actually found their match. The 23% who leave most likely had misaligned expectations, different values, and lifestyle goals, so they found happiness elsewhere.
If you're Canadian-born, I want you to know that your concerns about immigration volume and system management are shared by many skilled immigrants, especially those who came here before 2020. But the solution isn't fewer immigrants. It's better immigration policy that distinguishes between skilled permanent residents who contribute and temporary residents who get exploited.
If you're thinking of moving to Canada, you probably already know that Canada isn't perfect, and it's probably not even your first choice. But if you value stability, functional institutions, and the ability to build a life without constantly looking over your shoulder, Canada might be exactly what you need. Just make sure that you do your research and come prepared. Canada isn't easy, and if somebody tells you moving to any country is easy, there's probably a catch.
Canada is a wonderful country. And increasingly so in a world that seems to be losing its mind.
Thank you for watching. If you found this video interesting, please click the like button below and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.
If you want to support this channel further, you can do so by joining our Patreon or YouTube memberships.
And if YouTube algorithm got it right, you will probably enjoy this video next. So, we'll see you there.
Take care!